All right, so today we're going on a deep dive into something a little different, something you might not expect.
Oh, could I be worried?
No, no, not at all. Nothing to worry about. We're talking about rodent control, rats, mice, those little critters that can sometimes become unwanted house guests.
So a deep dive into the world of rodent control. I'm actually really excited about this. I think it's a topic a lot of people can relate to.
Exactly. And to help us navigate this world, we've got some great material from Critter Wranglers. They're a local pest control company based right here in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Quitter Wranglers, that name is fantastic.
Right. They've been around for a while, too, over 35 years, serving Knoxville, Powell, even places like Maryville.
Wow, 35 years. That says a lot about a company. They must be doing something right.
They are, and we're going to get into all that. But first, let's paint a picture for our listeners. Imagine you're settled in for the night, all cozy in your home, and suddenly you hear this scratching sound coming from inside your walls.
Ugh, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Right. It's unsettling, to say the least. Now, this is where Critter Wranglers comes in. They've got a whole list of telltale signs of a rodent infestation, things that you might not even realize are red flags.
You know what's interesting is that rodents have been our uninvited roommates for, well, centuries. It's like they've adopted to live alongside us, which makes them so tricky to deal with.
It's true, they're like these tiny little ninjas, finding ways into our homes without us even realizing it. But luckily, Critter Wranglers has our backs. They lay out some of those classic signs that we should all be aware of.
Like droppings, right? I think that's the one that everyone knows. If you see droppings, you know you've got a problem.
Exactly. But they also mention things like gnaw marks, which you'd be surprised at what those little critters can chew through. Wood, plastic, even wiring.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on the chewing. It's incredible, really, how much damage they can do. And that's where things can get a little scary, right? Because chewed wiring is a major fire hazard.
Huge fire hazard. Critter Wranglers mentions that hundreds of house fires every year are caused by rodents chewing through electrical wires.
It's true. So they're not just a nuisance. They can pose a serious risk to our homes and even our lives.
Absolutely. And it's not just fire hazards. Think about the structural damage they can do over time. Those little teeth can really wreak havoc on a building.
Definitely something to consider.
Okay, so we've established that rodents are bad news, but what can we actually do about it? This is where Critter Wranglers comes in with these services they call rodent exclusions and animal proofing.
I've heard those terms before, but I'm not really sure what they mean.
Me neither. It sounds pretty intense though, right?
Yeah, it does.
So I'm curious, what exactly does it involve?
So imagine this. You've got a tiny crack in your foundation, maybe the size of a dime, nothing major. You wouldn't think twice about it. But a rat can squeeze through a hole the size of a quarter. Crazy.
A quarter? Are you serious?
Yep. Rodent exclusion is all about sealing up those entry points, no matter how small. They use all kinds of techniques and materials to essentially block off those little critters from getting in.
So they're like rodent detectives, figuring out how they're getting in and then sealing off all the escape routes.
Exactly, and that's why experience matters. You need someone who understands rodent behavior and knows how to effectively seal those entry points so they can't come back.
It's like they're playing a game of chess with these little critters.
Ha! That's a great analogy.
So we talked about Critter Wranglers having over 35 years of experience in the Knoxville area, but they're also fully licensed and certified, right?
That's right, they're licensed by the Department of Agriculture and certified by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. It's important to look for those qualifications when you're choosing a pest control company.
Absolutely. It's a highly regulated industry, and for good reason. You want to make sure you're working with someone who knows what they're doing and who's using safe and effective methods.
Exactly, and Critter Wranglers is also fully bonded and insured, which is another important factor to consider.
It definitely adds a level of trust knowing they meet those standards. It shows they're serious about their business and that they're committed to doing things the right way.
And they've got a ton of positive reviews online, too. People rave about their service, their knowledge, and how effective they are. It sounds like they really go above and beyond just getting rid of the immediate problem.
Yeah, they do, which is exactly what you want when you're dealing with something like this.
Absolutely. Choosing a pest control company isn't just about getting rid of a few mice. It's about protecting your home, your health, and your peace of mind. And finding a company that understands that and takes those responsibilities seriously is crucial.
So Critter Wranglers is clearly the go-to for rodent control in the Knoxville area, but I noticed on their website that they handle a lot more than just rodents, right?
Oh yeah, they do. They deal with all kinds of pests and wildlife. They seem to be the experts on everything from ants to raccoons.
It's like they're the Avengers of the pest control world.
Huh. I love that.
And they have all sorts of interesting content on their website too, like blog posts about raccoon mating season and tips for keeping skunks away. I mean, who knew that raccoon mating season was even a thing?
Right. It's fascinating. They really are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things critters.
It sounds like they could be a whole other deep dive, but for now we're focused on those pesky rodents. So let's talk about prevention. What can our listeners do to keep those little critters out of their homes in the first place?
That's a great question, and it leads us to some really interesting insights about rodent behavior and how to make our homes less attractive to them.
So Critter Wranglers is awesome at getting rid of rodents if you've already got them, but what about keeping them out in the first place? Any secrets?
You know, it's funny, we always wait till there's a problem and then try to fix it, but with rodents, prevention is key.
So what's the secret weapon? Some kind of rodent-repelling force field I can put around my house?
Ugh, I wish. No, but seriously, one of the simplest and most effective things is just good housekeeping.
Housekeeping, you mean like vacuuming and dusting?
Well, yeah, that's part of it. But it's more about making your home less attractive to rodents in the first place. Remember, they're looking for food and shelter.
But if my house is spotless, they'll just pass right on by and find a messier place to live.
Basically, imagine you're a rodent looking for a new place to call home. Would you choose a clean, organized house or one with crumbs on the counter and piles of junk in the basement?
Yeah, I see your point. But life gets busy. Sometimes those dishes pile up, laundry explodes out of the hamper.
I hear you. But even small changes can make a difference. Critter Wranglers has a great blog post with tons of practical tips, like make sure your trash cans are sealed tight, store pet food in airtight containers, and even think about those bird feeders.
Bird feeders? What do those have to do with rodents?
Well, you might be unintentionally feeding the rodents too. It's all about thinking about the unintended consequences of our actions.
It's like that old saying, when you feed the birds, you feed the rats.
Exactly. But here's another thing Critter Wranglers talks about: landscaping.
Landscaping. Now I'm really confused. What does that have to do with rodent control?
Think about it. Overgrown bushes, wood piles, they're like rodent havens. They provide hiding places and nesting material. So keeping your yard tidy, trimming back vegetation, and storing firewood away from the house can make a big difference.
So it's all about making my property less inviting, less rodent-friendly, right?
Right? You're taking away their hiding spots, making it less hospitable for them. And here's another key thing. Critter Wranglers emphasizes understanding rodent behavior. For example, did you know that rats are amazing climbers?
Really? I always just pictured them just scurrying around on the ground.
Nope. They can scale brick walls, climb trees, even navigate pipes and wires. They're like tiny little acrobats.
Wow, I had no idea. So we have to think about all the possible ways they could be getting in, not just at ground level.
Exactly. Check your roof line, your gutters, any potential access points they could be using. It's like you're a detective, trying to think like a rodent to outsmart them.
Okay, so we've got to seal up every nook and cranny, keep things clean, and think like a rodent. Sounds like I need a PhD in rodent control.
Well, that's where professional help can be so valuable. Critter Wranglers has years of experience. They know what to look for. They understand rodent behavior in ways most people don't.
So it's more than just setting traps. It's a whole science.
Absolutely. They're not just exterminators. They're problem solvers. They help you understand the root of the problem and prevent it from happening again.
But what if, even with all the prevention in the world, we still end up with a rodent invasion? What then? Okay, so we've talked about prevention, we've talked about understanding rodent behavior, but what if, despite our best efforts, we still end up with those little critters moving in? What's the game plan then?
Well, the first thing is to make sure you actually have a rodent problem. Sometimes those little noises in the attic are just, well, noises.
Right, right. But how do you know for sure?
That's where Critter Wranglers comes in. They actually have this really cool feature on their website. You can upload pictures of, potential signs like droppings or gnaw marks.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and their experts will take a look and tell you if it looks like a rodent issue or not.
Oh, it's like a virtual pest inspection.
Exactly. You don't even have to leave your house.
Love that. But let's say those pictures confirm your suspicions. You've definitely got a rodent problem. What then?
Well, that's when you want to call in the pros.
Right, because trying to handle a rodent infestation yourself, it can be, well, a little overwhelming.
To say the least. Plus, it can be dangerous. You're dealing with wild animals, and there's always the risk of traps or poisons being misused.
So much better to leave it to the experts.
Definitely. And with Critter Wranglers, they've got a whole team of highly trained technicians who know exactly what to do.
So they come out, they assess the situation, they figure out the best plan of attack.
Right. They'll take into account the type of rodent, how bad the infestation is, the layout of your house, everything. It's a very personalized approach.
It's like they're rodent strategists.
Huh. Exactly.
And they use a variety of methods, right? Not just traps.
Oh, they've got all kinds of tools in their arsenal: traps, bait stations, exclusion techniques, and they always prioritize safety, both for the homeowners and for the environment.
So it's not just about getting rid of the rodents. It's about doing it in a way that's safe and responsible.
Exactly. They understand that pest control isn't just about getting rid of rodents. It's about protecting your home, your health, and your peace of mind.
So if our listeners take away one thing from this deep dive into the world of rodent control, what would it be?
I think the biggest takeaway is this: don't panic. Whether it's a minor nuisance or a full-blown infestation, there are solutions out there.
And there are experts, like critter wranglers, who are ready and waiting to help.
Exactly. They've got the knowledge, the experience, and the tools to tackle those pesky rodents and restore your peace of mind.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about rodents, their behavior, and those preventative measures, the better off you'll be.
It's true. And on that note, here's a little something to think about. We've been talking about sealing up those little cracks and crevices in our homes to keep rodents out. But what about the metaphorical entry points in our lives? You know, those areas where we might be vulnerable, where small problems could become big problems if we don't address them.
That's a really interesting thought.
Right, maybe it's our finances, our health, our relationships, those areas where we need to be proactive and vigilant, just like with rodent control.
It's all about being aware, taking those preventative measures, and knowing when to call in the experts for help. Great advice for life in general, I'd say. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those critters at bay, both the furry ones and the metaphorical ones.